Hello and welcome to Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshakin. Here on Today the News, we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. Now let's move straight to the paper reviews. I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with war in APC over poll funds as Omisore sues for 500 million naira. Party National Vice Chair Northwest Lukman leads calls for Adamu Omisore to quit. Accuses Omisore of mismanaging funds her party voted for the last Osun state governorship election. Omisore fires back, demands 500 million naira as damages for defamation. You can see that story on page 5. We have pictures showing Omisore, Adamu, and Lukman here on the front page. On page 13, Buhari silence on allegations against INEC dangerous. Southern and Middle Belt leaders are saying that Tinubu's silence over attacks on Igbo in Lagos dangerous for Nigeria. That's coming from Labour Party. You can see that story on page 9. And Olufasa says lack of accountability is another reason for perennial institutional failure in Nigeria. Public officials don't suffer consequences for appealing performances or behavior. On page 27, Emefiele advises central bankers on industry stability. Fuel subsidy, federal government states yet to harmonize ahead of June deadline. Presidential poll, Atiku PDP withdraw fresh application against INEC. You can see that on page 9. Stories above, polls, NBC sanctions at 25 sessions, wants 26 others. 2 days to polls, candidate parties bicker over violence, rigging, and apathy. Cash crunch pushes down inflation month on month. You can see that on page 19. And lastly, on Vanguard on sport, Edward warns Usman is going to knock him out again. And that's all on Vanguard. Now, the Nation this morning is leading with banks run out of old new Naira notes to pay customers. CBN fails to honor cash requests, branches shut. You can see that story on page 4. Sanwo-Olu lifts Akere market victims with 100 million naira. You can see that story on page 7. Stories above, why Nigeria Air may not fly before May 29. You can see that on page 25. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, governorship battle hot in Lagos and Oyo. Lagos PDP chieftains defect to APC support swells for marking day. You can see that on page 4. Now let's move to the Punch newspaper. The Punch this morning is leading with new Naira pains persist despite fresh CBN orders. Queues, chaos in banking halls as scarcity worsens. Bank expert Mondos from CBN before Saturday polls. You can see that story on page 9. And on page 13, election posters, Lagos summons principal for punishing pupil. Stories above, parties won INEC against Beavers problem repeats. Lastly, on the Punch newspaper, private sector blames Naira crisis for inflation surge, and that can be seen on page 21. Now, lastly, let's move to The Guardian. The Guardian is leading with at 21.91%, inflation sets new high amid currency crisis. Experts link a rise to Naira redesign. Waleke using currency squeeze to tackle inflation counterproductive. Emefiele warns African central bankers against possible bank run. Subsidy removal, federal government states yet to conclude on palliatives ahead of June deadline. You can see that story on the page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Amid outrage, NBA defends position on poll, says lapses left for court's decision. That can be seen on page 6. On page 3, immigration officer threatening election boycott over alleged unpaid allowances. Stories above, what health organization moves to curb crimes by immigrants, nurses, and others. Lagos court orders Inspector General of Police and to the General Federation to pay 400 million naira to families of 4 Ladipo traders. Lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, 10 killed, others injured in fresh Southern Kaduna attack. And that can be seen on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break as our guests will be joining us via Zoom to analyze the stories. Welcome back if you're just joining us. This is Today News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Okunshaki. Joining me to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Oludari Mayowa. He's the publisher of Global Financial Digest. Good morning, Mr. Mayowa.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us. And let's go straight to what we're talking about. And the ruling APC is again immersed in another round of crisis following the following the recommendations by the National Vice Chairman Northwest that the National Chairman Senator Abdullahi Adamu and National Secretary Senator Yola Omisore be eased out. What do you think about this? The fact that they are telling him, telling these people to quit.
Well, unfortunately for APC, the ruling party just won the election, so to say, and I mean, before they even set up the government, they are already fighting themselves over one of our recent crisis. And for me, it's too early in the day for such occurrence. And of course, that may not be connected with the internal grumbling prior to the primary of the power for the party, presidential primary elections, and subsequent selection of the deputy for president-elect Tinubu. I'm sure those are things that are rearing their on the behind now. And for Lukman, the vice chairman, that was speaking at the I think it's waiting, or probably unless you have evidence against the person you are alleging he has mismanaged the funds. Such allegation is weighty and should be investigated by the party structure and actually come out to our need. For me, APC deserve whatever they are getting really anyway. Whatever they are getting today is APC deserve it. The party has never been a cohesive party, a organization. You can imagine their amalgamation of various interests. So whatever they are getting is part of the structural defect embedded in the party.
But Omisore is of course they have sued them for 500 million naira. What do you think about this? The suit.
Of course, that's the right way to go. If you are sure that you are not done what you are accused of have done, then the right thing for you to go to seek redress in court to redeem your image. So I believe Omisore has done the right thing, rather than just engaging in application on the social media or the media. I think the right thing for him to do is to seek redress in the court, which has really done. And we have to watch and look at the end of the whole thing.
I mean, we just finished the presidential election, and of course, their party won the election, though there's still a lot of controversy surrounding these, and they're having these issues in these parties. Don't you think it will, this in a way might affect the president-elect?
Yeah, don't forget, like I said earlier, don't forget that APC is the amalgamation of various interests from former ACN, CPC, ABGA, PDP, and the Majan. Over the last 8 years, they are not able to merge all the structures within the party. So there have been conflicts and struggle for power within the bloc. And the effect you are seeing now is just too boring. And I hope the president-elect will be able to manage the crisis and reduce the impact on governance, going forward. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen. The president election has been a challenge by both the PDP and Labour Party. So we don't know whether they are going to form the government or not anyway. But notwithstanding, I think this is where we are going to see the leadership capacity of the president-elect in action. If he's able to manage his party and rally support around himself, then he will be able to manifest that he has the capacity to rule this country or not. And we're going to see that manifesting in the manner he managed the crisis in his party.
All right. Away from that, leaders of thought and other statements from 4 of the 6 geopolitical zones of the country on the platform of the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, that's SMBLF, have said President Muhammadu Buhari silent in the face of allegations of irregularities and compromise against the INEC was dangerous. What's your take on that?
I'm not sure the president has been silent on the issue, really. I think probably has not personally addressed the nation on the matter. His media aides, Garba Shehu and the rest have been issued press statement attributed to the government defending the election, defending the performance of INEC in the election. So I'm not sure the president has been silent. and what people are expecting from that for you to address the nation. Of course, I don't think that is right. Ordinarily, INEC is supposed to be an independent body which has a statutory requirement to conduct the election, and INEC has the whole responsibility for the conduct of the election. So, for me, and INEC has been defending itself. So, what do you expect the president to say? I'm not sure their criticism of president is right on that ground, really.
All right. Will you say INEC they are ready for this Saturday governorship election?
They are giving a prayer that they are already distributing the sensitive material to states, the words, and the rest. So we want to believe that they are ready for the election. But what we don't know is that are they going to repeat the same problem we encountered during the presidential parliamentary election 2 weeks ago? Are they going to? Is the IRS going to work this time around? Are we going to see the result of the election transmitted on a real time after the election at the polling units? These are things we need to look out for. These are things we need to focus on. Or otherwise, if you are still going to have a repeat of what happened at the presidential National Assembly election 2 weeks ago, then the investment in INEC could be considered to be wasted, really. But let us give it the benefit of doubt. They are going to correct all the anomalies, the errors, and the rest. And not only INEC too, we need to call on the government to actually mobilize security. That is very essential. We saw a pocket of crisis in Lagos and other parts of the country. We saw where some state governors were manipulating the election directly, and there's no security agent to intervene. The government need to mobilize the military, the police, and the civil defense to provide security for people who want to vote. We have seen on social media recently that the one regional leader in Lagos State has already fixed a celebration for election day. Those are issues that the security people need to address to provide security assurance that people are secure when we are carrying out their civic responsibility. These are areas of preparation for the election, and these are what we want the government to do.
All right, let's still talking about this election. You know, part of the reason why they redesigned the naira, one of the reasons is to stop electoral, to stop people from selling their votes. And right now, CBN, of course, they've given a go ahead after the Supreme Court rule that the old naira notes 1,500 naira remains legal tender till December 31st. And of course, Emefiele and the CBN, they've already given out the fact that they've told people that they can now spend and accept the money. Now, will you say that they succeeded in taking money out of politics and now telling people to receive the old naira notes? Do you think it will affect the election in any way?
The struggle for CBN to revise its policy was promoted or spearheaded by the politicians who have probably amassed some naira notes to finance the election. And politicians has their own way of manipulating the system. The moment the CBN release the new notes into the system, they hijack the money. That's why there is scarcity in the system. CBN actually printed enough that could have gone around the common people, the ordinary people who have less than 100,000 in the bank account, who probably need 3,000, 5,000 to go about their daily business. CBN actually printed enough, but unfortunately, at the point of distribution, this year did not bargain for what they are meeting today. The politicians actually hijacked the bulk of that money, and they are used to fund the last election. And now that they have the free hand to use the old note, the one they have put in their private vault in their house, they will be released to the system and to inject the system to buy the election. You cannot take away money from the system, whether we like it or not. The politicians will circumvent the system. They find their way around it and to finance the election. We may not have seen people going around bullying votes and sharing money during the last election. But I can assure you that money play major roles in the last election. That's why you can see some officials of the INEC manipulating and flexing results sheets and posting the wrong result on the IRF of the INEC. So we can't really away the fact that the money will still have a major role to play in the coming election.
All right. Let's move. Well, we're still talking about the governorship election, and of course, this Saturday is gubernatorial election in 28 states, and also the houses of assembly, especially Lagos here. Now, people have been talking about it, and there has been some politically motivated violence in some states across Nigeria. And talking about the attacks, some people have said they've been attacked attacks on Igbos in Lagos. Now, the chief spokesperson of Labour Party, Dr. Yunusa Tanko, he said the loud silence by the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu over this continuous ethnic profiling and hate propaganda against Igbo in Lagos State was dangerous for Nigeria's corporate existence. So, what do you think about what Dr. Yunusa is saying?
Don't forget that this Igbo profiling and the rest always occur every 4 years, every election cycle in Lagos. There have been a major weapon by the ruling party in Lagos State just to cow the other people. If in 2019 and previous election, we have seen where in Okota and the major prominent area of Igbo news, we are seeing touts disrupting the election in those areas. These are just political way of manipulating the election in a way. And don't forget, this year is a new ball game entirely, where the youth across all religions, all ethnic group mobilizing and participating heavily in the election. And these are the time that you are seeing a lot of increased awareness. And because of the beavers and the expectation that the beaver will make election transparent and make it free and fair, you are seeing the jittery around the political organization, trying to use other means just to manipulate the election in their own favor. So it is not new in Lagos. And for I've seen that expectation, we have seen that increase in ethnic profiling because of the last election. And for many observers and many analysts are saying that the result of Lagos election, president election, was worse than what was published. We are seeing what the PDP has published from their situation room, that the Labour Party candidate won over 1 million in Lagos. But what do we see? So I'm sure the ruling party APC, they are aware of the result of that election, the enormity of their loss in Lagos. And that's why they are wiping off the sediment and the rest. That's why you see the governor of Lagos State going around. He intensified a campaign before the last election. He was not campaigning seriously. He was probably following the president-elect around the country in the campaign around. Because they are taking for granted that Lagos, they have Lagos in their pocket. Now, because of the revelation of the last election, you can see intensity of his campaign, personally going to market, going to places, going to people, go to organizations to campaign to sell his candidature. And that is why you are seeing people, their supporters mobilizing and trying to cause confusion, trying to profiling some Igbos and rest. The campaign is not about Igbo, it's just to cause division and to create disaffection between the Igbos and the Yorubas in the state so that they can divide those votes and be able to lock some vote to themselves. That is a game of politics, really. And it's unfortunate they are doing that and they are causing crisis in the politics. For me, it's a wrong way of campaigning, but like I always said, politicians are capable of doing anything.
Mm. And I think that we've actually missed out there due to the network. But let's end this with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking this morning is Mr. He says, wow, with this elixir of youth, I have discovered the secret of longevity. And Mrs. replied, what's the use of life without prosperity? And Mr. replied, when there is life, there's hope. And that's actually the fact. When there's life, there's hope. I just like these couples, and of course, they just make us smile every morning. And this is what we have to draw the curtain. My name is Damlola Okunshakin. Do well to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on the screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. Have a lovely Thursday.